Hey everyone, welcome to the Touch My Health podcast with Matt and Katie, where we dig into mental health, physical health, and holistic wellness. We share personal stories and struggles that we have overcome. These are our own opinions and experiences. Enjoy! When you break it all down and peel down all the layers of the onion, it's a low self-esteem. That's really what they have.
Ogres are like onions.
Yeah, layers. Get down to
Liars.
the middle or the center of the onion.
Yeah.
It's just low self-esteem.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Touch My Health podcast. My name's Matt.
I'm Katie.
Today, we're going to be talking about co-parenting and narcissism, kind of how they intertwine and how you can go about maybe dealing with it, right?
Yes, how if you're co-parenting and the other parent is a narcissist, how that really affects the child and the whole dynamic of the family. And I feel like nowadays narcissism is being thrown out as such a buzzword. Like it's if you're in a bad relationship
Yeah, it
and
really
you're
is.
automatically like, oh, he or she was a narcissist. Like it's just a term that I feel like we're throwing around a lot, and it may not be applicable to some situations, or it could. But narcissism is not something you're born with. At least not any of the research I've done, not what I believe. It's something that's developed over time, and it's a personality style.
It's a
And
learned
it
behavior.
and it starts, I feel like, when you're younger. So if you're co-parenting and you have a child or children and they're brought into that situation, I feel like they may have a much greater chance of learning those behaviors from that parent that they're seeing. Now, that doesn't mean that if you co-parent with a narcissist that your kids are going to grow up to be narcissists, but the effect that it has on the child and the dynamic and everything from having that other parent who is a narcissist. And a narcissist is not just somebody who is mean, or
Or
like,
controlling. Yeah.
yeah, it is someone who just has this grandeur. I don't know if that's if that's how you say it, but this very large sense of self. Like think that only about themselves, and they have a
Yeah.
very strong sense of self, and not in a like positive way. I think I have it on here. It says an excessive preoccupation with oneself. That's probably a better way to say it, and a lack of empathy for others. And when you have a lack of empathy for others, oftentimes the expense of other people's feelings to further your gain is what happens in those situations. And there's some things that I wrote down on my phone that we can go over as far as like traits of a narcissism, and
Mhm.
how that can affect co-parenting and how that can affect your children. So, do you want me to, or is there anything else you want to add to that?
No,
Or
I think you
before I do all
explained it
the talking?
very well. I think when it comes to co-parenting, and you have to be on the same level. You have to be accepting of, the other person. And when you're dealing with a narcissist while co-parenting, it makes it so much more difficult
It's
because you are
draining.
never going to be able to have a in-depth or a quality conversation. I say never, but I'll say mostly never will be able to have a quality conversation with the other parent if you're dealing with narcissism, because they're always going to turn it and make it about them.
It's hard. It's draining. It's just
Yeah.
mentally draining. Like I was getting my nails done today. Got pretty new nails.
They are pretty.
And the lady I've been going to get my nails done from with like 8 years or something. But her ex-husband right now, like he is definitely a very narcissistic person.
Hmm.
And one of
Have you
the,
guys compared notes?
I don't know, he's pretty bad. But like some of the things we were talking about today when she was doing my nails, because she's in a situation right now where she's trying to co-parent,
Oof.
and her son is getting ready to go see the dad because the dad lives out of state. But he wouldn't give her his address. He would only give her his P.O. box. And she was like, I'm not sending my child, like, because he has a history of all these other really bad, manipulative, and unhealthy behaviors. And he's like a serial, I know they call him serial brides, but he's like a serial groom. Like he can't be by himself. Like he's
Yeah.
always, and right now he's got a new fiance, and the new fiance is trying to reach out to her and like try to play devil's advocate. And like she has no clue. You know, this poor girl is just,
Hmm.
she'll find out soon enough.
She's playing
But
referee and she doesn't
right.
even know
Like little,
what she's doing. Yeah.
yeah, but like little petty things like that. Like I'm not going to give you the address. It's like, what? Just
Why?
because it's
Yeah.
it's his way of trying to still remain in control of something.
Yeah, and the courts will tell you that you have to let the other parent know your address, your physical address.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's just again, like you said, trying to control the situation and have that little grasp of
Mhm.
control and bonehead.
Yeah. When we were talking about it and I knew we were going to be talking about this today, I was like, oh God, that's, yeah, talk about trouble. Because it is. She's like, I'm exhausted. I get
Oh
so
yeah,
tired. And
God.
I'm like, Girl, I hear you. I know.
Yeah.
But so one of the first things that when you are co-parenting and the other parent is a narcissist, they have a severe need for admiration. They need to be the one that's admired. They need to be
Yeah, they make it about
the,
themselves. Yeah.
craving for the praise and the attention
I'm the
and
best
all of
parent
that.
ever.
So
Yeah.
when you're parenting and you're not together and you're co-parenting, the attention should not be on the parent. You both should be focusing your attention on the child or the children.
Oh, 100%.
So if you're a child and you see, you have one parent who's always doing all these things for attention or praise or because they need, all this admiration, I feel like that can really either trigger the child to think, well, okay, well, is this how I get attention? Is
Hmm.
this how I get praise? One of those, like, they don't understand the difference between negative and positive attention. It's just attention. They just know that in their child mind that their parent or the person they're looking up to is getting all this attention. And that parent is probably not paying as much attention in a healthy way to the child that it should be.
No, because they always have uh, a reason, and it's not for just wanting to be a good parent. It's so that other people will admire them or will say, "Oh my God, you're such a good mom. You're such a good dad." That's
Oh,
that's
the
that's the
the
reasons
Instagram
usually.
mom or dad
Yeah.
or the Facebook mom or dad
Yeah.
or the people who post things, you know, like I have a friend who her baby daddy is one of those where he'll go months without talking, seeing, but he posts all this stuff on social media to make it look like he's this great dad. And
That he hasn't seen the
he's
kid in
not,
months.
and he doesn't check. And then when he does, he gets upset because they have no idea how to interact with him.
Yep.
They're clueless because they don't,
The
yeah.
kids you're talking about.
And now that they're
Yeah.
getting older too, they're coming to realize some of these things. And then he gets upset because they don't basically admire the fact that they get to see their father.
They're so lucky to have him.
Yeah. They don't like praise him for, all these,
Or not seeing the kids for a month, they're
yeah,
not
or
being praised,
yeah.
or he's
And
not being praised.
so,
Yeah, and that's one thing that I find with a lot of, we'll say, narcissistic parents is they spend a couple of hours with the child, and then they take probably 200 pictures, and like you said, then they just kind of sporadically post on Instagram or on social media. And my daughter's mom is super guilty of that. I mean, there's been times where it looks like on social media that they're together, and yet my daughter's been with me for 3 weeks and she hasn't seen her at all. So it's it's definitely for, like you said, that praise, so people
admire
don't
you. You're
know what
such a
is
great parent.
really going on. And that's what makes it hard and for the other parent, such as ourselves. We're not perfect parents,
No, no.
but
I don't think anyone's a
we
perfect
definitely
parent.
have to go through this, and it's something that is kind of near to us, and the reason that we want to talk about it because I don't think this is talked about enough. I don't think narcissistic parenting is talked enough, and how it affects children,
Hmm.
how it affects the mental health of the child. And when you're growing up, you don't really understand what narcissism is. You don't understand why my mom or my dad is acting this way. And then when you grow up, you start acting that way because that's
Your learned
mirrored.
behavior.
Yeah, it's the learned behavior, it's mirrored behavior. And now all of a sudden, you're labeled as a narcissist and you have no idea why.
Mhm.
But I really feel like when you are the opposite parent, it is so difficult to navigate that situation because you're having to not only I'll say argue with the other parent, but then you're also having to kind of shield your children from the other
You
parents'
you have to like
disgusting
undo a
behavior.
whole, you
Yeah,
have to undo a whole, you're basically like trying to undo what they see or they're,
yeah, or
so it's like
explain it and have to
extra.
explain, yeah, why they're why mom or dad are acting that way, and
Yeah.
it's very difficult, and it becomes a real mental strain. I've gotten into it before where I was growing up and I wasn't allowed to see my dad really on a regular basis until I think I was 8, 9 years old. And it was because my mother was narcissistic. I didn't know this when I was growing up, but she was very controlling of the situation and made my dad out to be this, you know, huge monster. And anytime that he came to pick us up on the every other weekend schedule, which I think is a bullshit schedule in itself if you are wanting to be a parent. But he would come and pick us up, and my mother would tell him no and shut the door, lock it, and slam the door, and wouldn't let us see him. And it was because of that control. It was because of that narcissism. She needed to make herself seen as I'm the single mom. I don't have my other, my parents
I'm
are
doing
my
this all on
children's
my
dad. Yeah, I'm
own.
doing it on
Hmm.
my own. And it was such bullshit. And I just cannot understand that. If you want to be a parent, that one weekend on, one weekend off does not work. With that every other weekend, I know you got to share, but that other every other weekend, that's 4 days in a month that you get to see
Yeah.
your kid. That's that's not okay for me, but
Yeah.
for some other people it might be. But that type of stuff where again, you know, social media wasn't around when we were growing up, but
Thank
uh,
God.
yeah, I feel like, that would have been a point for my mother to jump on and, talk shit about my dad. Oh, he didn't come to pick him up again. Oh
He
my
was
God.
20 minutes late. He doesn't care about my time.
Yeah. Oh my God. I just cannot imagine. It gets me fired up. My ears are red right now talking about it because I remember so many times of my dad coming to get us, and my mother and my dad would just start fighting and
Yeah,
arguing.
and
And
that's
I didn't
never
really
good to
understand.
do in front of
Hell
your
no.
kids.
No, absolutely not. But I mean, I've seen my mother attack my dad numerous times. And, you know, they both have sat there and fought and argued and just gotten out of hand, and how that affected me as a child. It's like I didn't understand why mom and dad were fighting. I knew obviously that they were divorced or not living
Mhm.
together, whatever it was. And I just didn't understand that absolute hatred that they had for each other. And growing up, and now being a father myself, I understand it. I could never do that with my daughter's mom as much as, I
Yeah.
may have a disagreeing spot or a disagreement with her. It'll never get to that point, and it never got to that point. She's in college now, but it never got to the point where we were sitting and fighting and arguing in front of our child
Yeah.
ever, because to me, that doesn't do anything good for the child's mental health. And that's what needs to be focused on is the child's mental health. How you and if we were co-parenting and we're sitting here arguing and bickering back and forth, and our kid is watching it. What is our kid thinking?
Yeah.
What is our poor child sitting here crying their eyes out? I
Right.
remember I remember crying my eyes out.
Well, and if they see that consistently, most of the times I think that they'll grow up and think that that's normal.
Yep.
And then when they get in relationships that have a lot of conflict, they don't understand that that's not normal.
Oh,
I know,
100%.
I know I felt like that because my parents would argue and fight a lot when I was younger. And then it got to a point where that stopped. But I know for a long time, I just kind of thought that, fighting and conflict was normal. And I'm not saying that, when you're in a relationship, you don't have conflict. There is, but there's a way to deal with it in a healthy way. Like screaming and yelling and having these fighting matches is not.
Throwing shit at each other.
And if you don't realize and don't know that that's not a healthy way to
Absolutely
have
not.
a relationship, you just grow up thinking, well, this is just how it is. And you're either in that kind of relationship or you're the one perpetuating that. And if that was because that's what you learned and grew up and saw, I mean, you have to either have somebody make you aware of that and be able to get help and want to get help, or you have to something in your brain has to click and then be like, listen, I can't keep doing this. Like, I
Right.
got to move on.
Yep.
So a big trait of a narcissism is their lack of empathy. It's probably like among the foundation of what a narcissism is. They just have a basically difficult time understanding or caring about anyone else
But themselves.
emotions
But themselves.
or
Yeah.
needs and feelings but
Mhm.
themselves. So if you're a parent, a narcissistic parent, and you have very little lack of empathy, you're anyone that has really a lack of empathy, you're not going to understand someone when they tell you, I feel this way, or this is upsetting me, or this is hurting me, because it's almost to them, they're like either I don't care or I don't understand this, so I'm going to take it as disrespect, and then it's them turning it around
Yeah.
to defend themselves in a way because they do not understand feelings, they don't understand emotions, and all they understand is how they feel, and
Right.
you're making them feel bad. They have no empathy. And when you have children are, they have a lot of feelings, they have a lot of needs, they have things that
Right.
need to be addressed and help them grow up and get, become functioning adults. And if you don't have that empathy and, compassion, even, that's not being taught down to your child. And I feel like that's a lot of where narcissism is that seed is planted and built
Right.
when you're younger, is not having somebody who is empathetic and compassionate as a caregiver towards you
I
because
could
you
see
don't
that.
understand how to process your feelings and your needs and your emotions.
Hmm.
So, I mean, empathy for me is a big one. Like if you lack empathy, narcissism or not, I just think you're a shit person. I
Yeah,
mean, because I'm a very empathetic person.
I agree.
I've like feel like I even feel like I get that secondhand embarrassment for someone, like I feel like I feel people's feelings
Yeah.
so much when I'm in
You're
a
like, ooh, that's
situation.
cringy.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't, I'm like, yeah, gosh, I don't even want to watch you do something because I'm scared or nervous for you, and I'm not even the one doing it,
Right.
or
Yeah.
something. So it's not a good thing to be around. And when you're a child and you have lots of feelings that you're navigating through in life, and then we all go through puberty and hormones start, and
Yep.
now we have social media. These kids like it's just there's so much going on. They need both parents to be empathetic towards them. And if you have a narcissistic parent, they're not going to be empathetic at all. They don't know what that they don't even know what that word means. They're to them empathy is empty.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Emptiness.
that's that's 100% true because if they don't uh understand what their child is feeling, they only understand how they're feeling.
Well,
It turns it back around about themselves.
or it's a nonchalant thing, like, hey, this is happening. I'm upset about this, or
Yeah.
these are my friends. Well, you know what? Fuck them friends.
Hmm.
Like basically, instead of guiding you and telling you and giving you advice, it's like, hey, I'm getting in an argument with so and so, or I'm upset with so and so, like one of my friends, and they're like, well, screw them, like, or you're a child, you come to your parent with a problem and they just basically brush you off and say it's no big deal, like don't worry about it, or you're being too sensitive about it, you're making too much of a big deal about it, like don't worry, like, and doesn't even provide you any guidance or comfort or anything because they don't understand, like, oh, whatever.
Yeah,
And kids don't want
or
to
they
hear that.
downplay it because that you're just a kid
Hmm.
and you don't have real problems.
And when kids come to you with problems because they don't want criticism, they want empathy, they want compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And when they come to you with problems or issues and you just give them criticism or you don't give them compassion and you don't give them empathy and you just are completely empty, then they stop going to you
That's
too, and
true.
it kills your communication. But then it also teaches them I can't talk about these things, maybe. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about these things. Maybe I am making too big of a deal about it. And if you have one parent saying one thing and one parent saying another, it makes it hard for, the child to understand, well, who should I listen to, or you know, what should what's the right way for me to do things? And as a kid, you probably have a hard time now in today's day and age trying to figure out what's right and wrong to begin with.
Yeah. And that's a good point because if they don't feel like they can come to you because you just brush them off all the time, then that builds a wall between you and your child and really hinders that relationship. And I've always told all of our children, I'm not your friend, I'm your parent, and that is such a vital part of parenting also is giving your child guidance and allowing them to come to you, but also telling them like, look, I'm not your friend, I'm your parent, and I can guide you through this. If you want me to listen or if you want me to help, I'm here for either. But
Yeah, what do we like to we like to say that to each other too. Just are we listening or are we giving advice?
yep,
Which one do you want? Do you want me to give you advice or you just want me to listen?
yeah. And I think it makes such a big improvement in communication skills too, is because when you are your child is coming to you and you're like, hey, do you want advice or do you want me just to listen? And they're like, no, just listen. Then you're just
It's
a
what my
soundboard, right?
yeah.
You're just sitting there and you're waiting, and you're just listening and kind of taking it all in. And then you don't have to worry about really giving advice because then at least they can get whatever the child can get whatever they have on their chest off. And sometimes that's the best thing is they just need an ear to listen to. And when you're dealing with a narcissistic person, I don't think as a narcissistic parent you can truly listen to your child because you're going to take their story and turn it into something about you.
Yeah, or you either don't understand and so you can't relate to it and so then it doesn't apply.
Yep.
Um,
And you just kind of brush it
yeah.
off and like you said, well, whatever, just yeah, forget your friends and get out of here.
Yeah.
It's not quality communication especially, and it does down the line, it really affects your child's mental health because then they don't learn how to one communicate and two and solve problems effectively.
Yeah. That's a good
which
one.
can really
Well,
hinder them, down the line.
well, and that kind of is, I think, a good segue into the next one is narcissists obviously have this grand sense of self, or what was it that I said at the beginning? I don't remember, but so they have this very strong entitlement. They feel very entitled. So when you have a very big sense of entitlement,
Hmm.
you feel like you're owed something or like everything should revolve around you. And when you're a narcissistic parent and you have this entitlement, like everything you do is, well, it's because I'm the parent. And to me, it's one of those like do as I say, not as I do. And I understand when you're a parent, it's parent-child relationship. So parents, we can do something obviously that our kids cannot do, but that entitlement and that like do as I say, not as I do kind of mentality, it's not healthy. Even in as adults, when we're in the workspace or wherever, and we talk about great leaders, leaders lead by example.
Oh yeah.
They lead not in a entitled way because they are a leader. So when you're a parent, you shouldn't just, well, I'm the parent, you have to listen to me. While yes, that is true. We want our children need to listen to us because we're their parent, but it's not because we're entitled or we're like, this God or whatever, like you have to listen to me. Like it's respect too, and they should listen because
100%.
we are leading them in a good way and we're leading them with love and with, empathy and consideration and
Hmm.
there is respect there and there is a line that obviously as an adult and as your parent I can do these things and you cannot, but it's not in that same sense of entitlement that I feel like narcissistic parents feel. Like I can do what I want because I'm the parent and you have to listen.
God, that annoys the shit out of me. And it annoyed me when I was a kid when I would be told, "Well, I can do it because I'm the mom, I'm the dad," and I'm like, "Oh God, like when can I do
When
that?"
can I be the mommy and daddy?
No,
When can I be
eh,
and I'm not saying like kids should be able to do what parents do,
absolutely not.
but I think I'm trying to think of a specific situation too, because I feel like we know what we're saying. We know what we're trying to get to.
Yeah, well,
It's
think about it. I mean, it's like driving. Okay, we'll just take driving. You can't drive until you're 18. Or we'll say for the smokers out there, you know, neither of us smoke, but smokers. My mother smoked growing up, and uh, I can remember one time my sister asking my mother if she could smoke too, and she's like, "No, you can't do that until you're 18." And this
Mhm.
was before the 21 law. And just like with driving, I would ask my dad or my mom if I could drive, and they're like, "No, you can't do it till you're
Mhm.
16." And I'm like, "Well, this doesn't make sense." I
Well,
don't
but in those two examples, I would say too that driving is something we are all going to do. Now, do you have to get a driver's license? No, but I mean,
No, it's a
9 times out of
privilege.
10, you're going to.
Right.
So when you are watching your parent, your parent saying to you, no, you can't drive. Well, it's because it's like
It's a
a
law.
law, and it is a
Hmm.
privilege, and that you will get to, do when you get to a certain age. But they're going to watch you, and they're going to learn how you drive. And now we have cell phones. Are you texting and driving? You're on your phone all the time. But with smoking, if your mom wasn't even a smoker to begin with, if she was leading in an example to where she didn't even have it in her household, your sister may not have ever even asked those
Probably not.
questions.
Yeah.
And your sister doesn't smoke now, but I'm just saying if that was something like a habit she developed later, had your biological mom not smoked, she may not even have developed that habit or
Right.
something. And to me, that is leading, and I'm not shitting on parents who smoke. I mean, I smoked for years. So, but if you're leading in a way where you're setting an example and it's not well, I can smoke, I'm an adult. You can, if you want to kill your lungs too when you get older, you can, you know.
Right.
But so I
Yeah.
think those two you could look at them in a little bit of a different way,
Yeah.
but same thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with narcissism, again, it's gonna be well, I'm allowed and you're not, and then it's gonna be something about how, they're better
Hmm.
than you or you're lower than them. That it's what
Don't
it's
worry about what I do.
don't yeah, it's always gonna come back to you're not as good as they are. And that's how that is going to be explained
Yeah.
is, you're not you're not good enough yet. You maybe when you're older you can maybe, so and so whatever it is, but it always come down to you're not good enough. And
I'm entitled, not you.
yep.
I can
And
do
that
these
really
things.
that really I mean, again, it takes a toll on a kid's mental health and being told you're not good enough and being told, I was called stupid as long as I can remember. And it's such a buzzword for me. Like that's a huge trigger
I
word for
can't
me.
imagine ever calling one of my children stupid.
Oh yeah, this was
I
repeatedly.
cannot.
Yeah, my mother called me stupid repeatedly. And everything that I did, was wrong. And I was stupid because I did that. And it was really, I mean, detrimental to my own self-esteem and it took me a while to really kind of overcome that and just that breakdown of myself and it took a lot of therapy. Again, I praise people that go to therapy because I've been to therapy and I really think it helped for me, but um just how much what your parents say to you can either make or break your mental health. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's stressed enough as uh,
Well, kids' state of mind is just so fragile.
it is.
Everything is
Yep.
so fragile when we're young.
Yep.
And I don't think that, I think as we progress and get, I say as we progress, I mean like society and like mental health is obviously something that's talked about way more than it used to be.
And we're so glad for that. And
Yeah.
we're glad that
But
we can
back
talk about
then,
it. Yeah.
even I don't even remember when we were growing up. I don't know about you. I don't remember it being
No.
talked about. I mean, I remember
Mm-mm.
my younger sister went to
Rarely.
therapy for a little bit, but that was because they thought she had like ADD or something.
The
So,
only time that we ever heard about people going to therapy or going to see a psychiatrist or something like that, a counselor, you were crazy. Like that was that was
like you were
the
eating crayons.
yeah. Yeah, you're just sitting there, wearing a helmet and banging your head on the wall and licking the windows, you know. That's the only time that we ever heard about people talking about mental health and going to therapy. So it
Hmm.
wasn't in the 80s, 90s, it wasn't talked about. And
20 years ago, 80s, 90s,
ish.
20 years ago.
Hmm.
Yeah. I don't,
Yeah.
was,
Math.
that was 20 years ago to me. I don't know what you're talking about.
Close.
Yeah. 1986 was 20 years ago. Okay.
Hmm.
Don't tell me any different.
Yeah, 19 because the next year will be 26. So, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, well, and the next one kind of it leads into that, and it's a really big one, especially. I mean, they're all big, but I feel like this is probably when it comes to co-parenting, this is the one I think that people think of probably the most is narcissistic or narcissism or no, narcissistic people, parents' ability to manipulate.
Mm,
So manipulation,
yeah.
master manipulators, they are for sure. And they, I feel like, will always try to manipulate the child against the other parent if
Yes,
they can.
that was me as a child.
Yeah.
100%. I was manipulated. Yep.
So they
And
have,
thinking that one parent is worse
hmm
than the other.
yeah. And it helps when they can manipulate and they can make, if they succeed in making the child think that, they're better or that the other parent's doing something wrong, it also feeds that grand sense of self and that
Hmm.
admiration and that,
Oh yeah.
because then the child admires them more and
Hmm.
they think that they're so great and just such an amazing person.
Yes.
They look up to them. That's their go-to.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they just manipulated that child and probably and lied and did all these horrible things
Yeah.
to turn them against the other parent.
Yeah. Then this brings back, I mean, a bazillion memories as we're talking about it. But again, it was one of those things when I was growing up and my mother would play me and my sister and my brother against my dad to make her seem like the perfect parent and my dad to be this monster. But it was the manipulation. It was the um manipulating us against my dad to then make it seem like she was the better parent, she was the best parent ever and all this stuff. And meanwhile, that's just not the truth. And
Yeah.
it really, that manipulation, um, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, usually comes back to bite that person in the ass. And it
Oh
came
yeah,
back,
because they show their true colors at some
yeah,
point. It's inevitable.
yeah, it came back to bite my biological mother in the butt just because none of us talked to her anymore. And because of her true self came out, we figured out who she was and the manipulator she was and the narcissist she is. And, none of us kids talk to her anymore. And that's her punishment for her terrible behavior. And
Yeah, and I can't imagine being older, like 20 years from now, and our kids are in their 30s or something and not, not having a relationship with them. And she
oh,
probably doesn't even
shit, no,
care because she's just
I don't even know. I don't even care. But
well,
yeah,
she doesn't have any empathy.
yeah. And she played the victim a lot. And that's, I think, another part of that manipulation is
Absolutely. They always play victim.
she
They're always
was
the
the
victim.
victim all the time. Whenever anything went wrong, she was always the victim and never the problem. And that was part of that uh what affected our mental health as kids too is I have seen a lot of that in uh, traits of other people. And I married someone like that, where she was always the victim.
You didn't know
And I
that when
didn't
you,
know that.
yeah.
I didn't know that until later, but they always say, you marry your mother or whatever that saying is. And it came to be that that whole manipulation, that victim mentality is just for that reason. It's for manipulating. And like you said,
Hmm.
manipulating to manipulate someone against another person, where it was manipulating us kids against my dad. And it's just, I mean, my daughter's mom and I co-parented pretty well. There was a lot of times that we had many discussions about our child. There was times that we got into arguments, and we were able to co-parent only because the focus was on our daughter. And both of us, when we would get off on a tangent, would refocus each other. And um, I think one of the greatest things is having my daughter be able to see my daughter's mom and I in the same room, in the same house. I would invite her over for Christmas. I would invite her over for, our daughter's birthday. We would do things around holidays or birthdays and that for
Hmm.
our daughter. And I think that is a very healthy thing.
Right.
And some people can't do that,
They can't even be in the same room.
and that's
Yeah.
okay. My parents couldn't be in the same room.
But it's unfortunate
It
because I
is
agree with
unfortunate.
you that I think kids seeing their parents be able to, at least be in the same room for a holiday or a birthday or
Yeah.
something without, you know, ripping each other apart. I mean,
When I
it's nice for
graduated,
them.
my parents, when I was playing sports, my parents would never come to the same game, or be in the stands together. When I was, my parents didn't have a picture together until my sister graduated. She was the last of us. That was the first picture since we were babies that my parents were in the same picture together.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? 19, like 18 years or something like that. And
Yeah.
I'm like, man, that was a real big springboard for the reason that I told my daughter's mom that it'll never be like that between us ever. And we were both able to keep a level head, but it can really the opposite of that. Like I said, when I was growing up and my parents not being able to be in the same room and all the fighting and all that, it just wears on you as a kid. It
Oh,
just does. And it's that level of hate that I can't understand. It's the level of hate for somebody that you once loved or had a baby with,
well,
however that
and I
goes.
don't know, sometimes I even wonder if narcissistic people, like really true narcissistic personality disorder people, not
Can't
just,
love.
not, yeah, can love. Because I think people can display traits and not be a full-blown narcissist. That's why I say I think we kind of throw that word around a little
Yeah.
loosely now. But if you are truly you have the narcissistic personality disorder, it's, I really do. I wonder, can you even truly love? Because you don't, I don't think you can love without empathy. I don't see
You
how you
love.
can love without caring about somebody else's
Mhm.
feelings,
100%.
somebody else's wants and needs.
Yeah.
If it's only about you and what you're getting, you
That's
then
what I
how
was
do you
gonna say. That's what I was gonna say.
love?
They love
They
themselves
love themselves real
a
hard,
whole lot.
real hard, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's why I think it's easy to flip that switch for them and just to be so hateful
Yeah.
because
Yep.
did they ever really truly love to begin with, or was it just that you made them, they knew, I feel like they know people, they go after a type. They know the type of people that will help feed their ego,
Mm.
feed their grand sense of self,
Yeah.
that will feed their admiration, and they can manipulate and they can,
Yeah.
will help their self-esteem because at the end of the day, narcissism and narcissistic people, it stems from the low self-esteem. When you break it all down and peel down all the layers of the onion, it's a low self-esteem. That's really what they have.
Ogres are like onions.
Yeah, layers. Get down to the
Liars.
middle or the center of the onion,
Yeah.
it's just low self-esteem.
Yeah. And again, it's that self-love and unable to love
Hmm.
anyone but themselves. And I think you're right. I think we've talked about it on one of our other narcissism podcasts, excuse me, uh, that they prey on people that are vulnerable
Yes,
or just coming out of a relationship where they are maybe a little bit more manipulative or easily manipulated. Again,
easily
yep.
influenced.
And I think that plays such a big role. I mean, it's a prey mentality. I
Hmm.
do.
Oh, I 100% think that for sure. We actually just watched this crazy, it was like a four episode documentary. And then what was it called? The worst
The
ex
worst ex
ever.
ever, yeah.
And it was four different episodes. And man, these exes were wild.
Katie's
And
the typical crime
oh my gosh,
documentary.
I really, yeah, right now I'm really into documentaries. If you've got
Crime documentaries, yeah.
crying was no,
No,
just
crime.
oh, I was like, I don't know, I don't want to cry. Crime, yes. I mean, of course, but I love ones that are informative too. If you got a good one, put it in the comments.
Yeah.
Um, but in this mini series or whatever, these four-part episodes, I'm trying to think. I think everybody except for one of the exes had children involved. But these people were all, I mean,
Yeah, the first story.
Narcissist to the T plus, but it's
No,
the violent kind.
yeah, yeah. Two of them didn't have children.
Two of them didn't have
Two,
children.
yeah, because the
Well,
one in Vegas and then the very first one in Oregon and whatever, I think.
Oregon was Vegas.
Oh, you're right. That
Mm-hmm.
one had
Because
a little that
he
little doggy. They didn't have kids.
yeah, but well, the ones that did have kids, and the one that I'm specifically thinking of was the woman was
She was a loony
very
bin.
she was
Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say there's another word besides narcissist, but I mean she made up lies to try to manipulate the system to get full custody, as going as far as saying, you know, her ex-husband, the children's father, was sexually molesting the child,
Ugh.
which was absolutely not true. And that's, I mean, this man had to be, you know, he was put on leave from work. Obviously, they had to do an investigation. Like those kinds of allegations and that kind of manipulation is just, it's evil.
It
Like
is
it's just
evil.
straight
Yeah.
evil and foul.
Yeah,
And
because
she was, I mean, the lengths she went through to try to manipulate the situation and get what she wanted without any consideration or empathy for her child or anyone else. I
no, she's
mean,
just thinking about having the
and her
kid all
mom
to
was crazy
herself.
too. Her mom helped.
Yeah.
So obviously learned behavior.
Learned behavior.
Point blank right or I mean point in case right there. Like
Yeah.
her mom and her were conspiring all these things and obviously she learned that from her mom. They didn't
Yeah.
mention dad anywhere in that series,
No,
so
they sure didn't.
God knows what happened to him.
Yeah.
Um,
So definitely worth the watch, but that's yeah,
mhm.
that's a problem when the other parent goes to a length like that where they make false allegations against the other parent, especially when it's a woman saying it against a man. Oh, my ex is sexually abusing our daughter. Dude, you're automatically guilty. You are guilty until proven innocent by
Unfortunately,
the
public court of opinion.
public court. Yeah, because you are you are a man, obviously, and we
Saying
all,
those allegations
oh,
does
the
it
worst.
doesn't even matter if it's proven and you know it's proven to be wrong and the damage it can do is
Hmm.
awful. And I think anyone who makes false claims like that and it comes out that they made a false claim, you should do jail time.
Oh,
You
100%.
should do jail time and
Yep.
whatever they
Yep.
lost in the time frame where they were being investigated for something,
Yeah.
you should have to pay that back in some form of punitive damages.
Oh, the lady that brought charges against Trevor Bauer, the pitcher. He's still not allowed back in the MLB, and
Which
he,
is crazy because we allow rapists in the NFL, but you know, and domestic violence and
yep,
uh,
in the
men
ML,
who
yeah,
assault their wives. But he has a claim that was false and proven to be false,
proven to be
right?
false. Yeah,
And he can't play in the MLB. He
no,
plays where in Japan?
yeah, Japan and Mexico. Yeah,
Fucking crazy.
it is. It's crazy. So, dealing with that level of narcissism where they then manipulate the law and the system against you to get what they want is a whole nother level
Hmm.
of crazy and narcissistic.
Narcissism can turn in this series that we watched. You know, it's not so much the mental abuse and emotional abuse, but a lot of times people that display these really hardcore traits of narcissism can be very violent and physical.
Mm,
And when you are, you know, if you've left, let's just say, like we're talking about co-parenting. So co-parenting can still be really hard because they may not even think about the children when it, and that could be just, I'm going to hurt you or hurt the children to hurt you.
hmm. Yeah.
Or they don't care about how the children feel. They just want to hurt you because you've hurt them. And to me, it goes back to that lack of empathy. You don't have any feelings about anything other than you and yourself.
Yeah.
And you can't conceive consequences because you have such a high sense of self that you think that you'll be able to get away with whatever you're doing.
Hmm.
No one will catch you because you're going to be the victim. It's going to be turned out that
Yeah.
you're going to be the victim.
Yeah. And these
And
poor kids are the ones
they're going
being
to suffer.
they're the ones that are being
Mhm.
hurt in the process and
I mean,
affecting their mental health in the worst way.
yeah. And the other one that we watched that had kids, I mean, this man wanted his baby mama dead. Like he would rather her be dead than them co-parent and raise her. He would rather have their children, three kids, grow up without their mother than just co-parent and
Yeah.
like move on with their lives. Like,
Whole nother level of crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
crazy, crazy, crazy. Thank God we don't have to deal with that level of
Not
crazy.
that level.
Yeah,
No,
no.
that's it's a whole nother level that is actually I didn't think was much beyond my biological mother. So, I mean,
Yeah, that series we watched was pretty wild.
it was wild.
Ah,
And
every episode it got like worse. I was like, oh my gosh.
I
By
was
the
just
time we
gonna
got to
say
the
that.
fourth one, I was like, what's
Yeah.
gonna happen? And it was that one was pretty bad too.
Yeah. So if you are having issues co-parenting, if you are having narcissism in your
It's affecting
co-parenting,
your ability to co-parent.
yeah, reach out to us. We have dealt with it. We are dealing with it. There's been, a lot in my childhood that I've had to deal with. And like we said in some of this podcast, but it goes so much deeper. But if you guys are, having experience in this,
If you
reach
have
out.
tips too, if you have tips or things that have helped you and experiences you've had and what's worked in your situations and how you've dealt with things with
Oh,
a
that's
bad
yeah.
co-parent,
Hmm.
let us know.
Yeah.
Message us
Put
or
it in the
put it in the
comments. Yeah,
comments, whatever. We would love to hear about it too
absolutely.
because we are currently both of us co-parenting with other parents and some days it's easy and some days it's hard and I know I'm going through it more than you are because our oldest is, I say our, it's together. It's our, but your biological oldest is of age now. So,
Yeah.
she's over 18
College,
and
yeah.
it's a little bit different in my situation. I still have under 18, two of them.
Right. Yep. And it
So
that makes it a little bit easier when they're older,
it's
but
a lot less to really argue about.
oh yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so if you have any tips or anything you have questions about, or you want to us to talk about more, please let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like and subscribe and leave any comments in the comment section on YouTube.
Wait, what do they say? Hit the like button and subscribe. Put the little buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah, do that. Hit the like and subscribe.
All right, we'll see you guys on the next one.
Bye.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you for joining us today. If you learned something and our stories resonate with you, subscribe to our podcast. That's a zero-cost way to support our channel. You can also follow us on Spotify, Instagram, and TikTok. They're linked in the description of the episode. We'd love for you to put any questions, comments, or suggestions for future episodes in the comment section on YouTube. We'll read them all. Again, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate your interest. And as always, we remind you to be the best version of yourself. See you next time on the Touch My Health podcast.